Hello, community. Welcome to Victorious Voices. We have a dynamic show today, and we'll get into that. But I just want to speak on what Victorious Voices is. The core, it's credible messengers, it's lived experience. These are individuals that have been impacted by the justice system, and any individual or organization that supports this process. That's what Victorious Voices is. Today, we have a great guest. And before we get to that guest, I want to start with our quote. Advocacy, at its core, what is that? It's a form of empathy for others. We'll start with a check-in. What is a check-in? A check-in is your name, how you feeling. Not tired, okay. Physical feeling, not accepted here at Victorious Voices. So we'll begin with the check-in. My name is Arturo. My pronouns are he, him, his. I feel motivated. The check-in question is, if you had a superpower, what would that be? So if I had a superpower, that superpower would be a magic wand. A magic wand, what I would like to bring in healing to individuals within the community. If individuals are in a place where they're feeling the impacts of trauma, stuck in incarceration, going through that system-induced trauma, this magic wand would be able to bring in healing. Today, I would like to introduce David Shapiro, attorney at law. How you feeling? And if you had a superpower, what would that be?
I'm exhilarated to be here. I'm exhilarated to be alive and be a part of this podcast and to be here with you today. And if I had a superpower, it would be to enable everyone out there to understand and achieve their full potential. Not just business owners, not just lawyers like myself, not just judges, prosecutors, community members, whatever. Anyone and everyone out there, from the 42-year-old small law firm owner to the 13-year-old kid who doesn't understand the skills they have can transfer and make something out of themselves, is not going to get them on the path and not be limited by those who came before them.
Excellent. And David, so what do you do for a living?
I am the owner and managing partner of a criminal defense law firm. The law office is David P. Shapiro here in San Diego. We are a criminal defense law firm, myself, 3 other attorneys currently at the firm, a team of 9.
Excellent. And so what's your why factor? Why did you become a lawyer?
Sure. Probably even more specific and more granular than that, why I became a criminal defense lawyer, right? Our slogan, our mantra at the firm is, we help good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime. It's trademarked, so nobody out there take it, right? And that comes back from my own experience, right? I grew up in New York. One brother was a district attorney. Another brother was a cop. So I grew up in the law. And I always knew I was going to wind up probably on one side of it or the other. So, I go through college, go through law school, get arrested when I'm in law school, and spent 20 hours in jail, right? Is this going to be the end of my career? Am I going to be a lawyer? How am I going to tell this to my mother? How am I going to explain this to my family, right? How am I going to get out of here and handle myself until I get out, right? All those things. And to think about someone who came from an upper middle class family, albeit got arrested in New Orleans, where I was living at the time, and from New York, had the resources, had the familiarity with the law, had the help at my fingertips, and the fear, the embarrassment, the shame. From that moment on, I knew it was going to be criminal defense, and I knew it was going to be to surround ourselves and surround myself with the team that bought into that vision and making sure that we never let any of our clients feel that way.
Wow. So let me ask you this, them 20 hours that you were in there, how did that feel?
It felt different for the thousands of hours probably I've been in jail since, all voluntarily since. It was interesting. And I tell you, a lot of people ask, and like, oh, New Orleans, what was it like with the other inmates? To be honest with you, I wasn't intimidated really by any of the inmates. I was intimidated by the staff and the police.
Wow.
So it was interesting. It was interesting. I learned a lot. And if there was a way that anyone out there, especially working in criminal justice or in criminal defense, if anyone out there could go through that and have it be 100% positive and life-altering the way it was for me, I wish everyone could go through that just to get a taste of it. Because for me, I was able to stop the stupid decisions I was making that got me in that mess to begin with but also used it as a springboard, for the next 20 years of my career.
Wow. And so you talked about intimidation from the staff. So there was no trauma-informed approach. David's coming in, this 22 hours of incarceration, like being supportive, effective communication. There was none of that, right?
No, the only communication was questions about how nice my car was and how many miles I had on it, and then mysteriously that car was no longer a police impound when I got out. That was the only communication I got from law enforcement that whole experience.
Wow. Wow. And, I spent over 23 years of incarceration in institutions and Pelican Bay SHU, Corcoran SHU. So I experienced that inhumane isolation, torture, system-induced trauma. I tell everybody, if you want to feel what that feels like, lock yourself up in a bathroom for 23 hours a day with the TV. You can put a TV there if you want and then get that feeling. And that's what that feels like. So, wow, I didn't know that about you, David.
Yeah, I mean listen, it is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what someone like you went through, so many of our clients go through, but it was such a valuable lesson and such a valuable experience. Not that I could say with a straight face, hey, I know what that's like, right? Having a conversation with you, I know what that's like. I spent 20 hours in the Orleans Parish Jail in New Orleans in 2004. Big deal, right? But I know what? I know that I could relate a lot more than 95% of anybody else who they're calling on for help can, because I've experienced at least the emotional component, albeit at a different scale.
Wow. So help us educate the community. You have all these videos on your Instagram, LinkedIn, these platforms. And so how do you educate the community?
Sure. It's all about, not to sound tacky or take somebody else's slogan, but I mean, knowledge is power, right? And the more you know, that's our big thing, right? Protect your freedom, protect your future, know your rights. And know your rights comes last, but it really should come first. Because a lot of times these videos are helpful to people, but they're helpful after the fact, right? Well, I wish I knew that 3 years ago. I wish I knew that 3 months ago. I wish I knew that 3 days ago. Or my brother, I wish he knew that 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right? But it's all about education to spread the word so people understand what their rights are and how not to make a bad situation worse through their own doing. And we get a lot of heat for that, right? People are like, well, in one regard, they're like, well, you're helping people get away with crimes. It's like, no, we're not. It's like we're educating them about their rights. If a case is going to be proven, a case is going to be proven. We just don't want to make it more difficult on them and selfishly on us if we get these cases, with less to work with. On the other side, I've had people literally tell me, hey, aren't you, you're helping people, you spend all this time in the community, donating money, donating time. Aren't you taking clients away potentially by helping people? And I'm like, yeah. And
Yes.
Right. There's always going to be people making bad decisions. There's always going to be people making bad decisions no matter what we do. The hope is to get the message out there so we can affect some people so they don't. And those who do, at least they make informed decisions moving forward. And a lot of times that starts with how they handle themselves with the police and what lawyer they hire if they can afford to do so, who's standing by them in court.
And I love what you do because I've been in prison and I've had all these conversations with individuals, and I'll be real. There's a lot of individuals that go down this pipeline and end up in prison, but actually didn't commit the crime. And that's just the reality, because I was a legal beagle in there. I was able to read the paperwork and have the conversations and have them true, honest conversations where, there was a perpetrator that committed the crime, but they were just involved in the process, but ended up getting the consequences at the same time. So what's an example of educating the community?
Sure. I think it's important to understand, right, that there are options out there and that there are ways to identify who may be the right lawyer for you and what resources are out there, right? Whether it's community groups that can help with the components of just the stress of going through a case, whether it's, hey, I don't know who to hire. All these people look the same to me. Where do I go to lean on the community, to lean on, not to, you're not going to hire a lawyer off social media, but it's a start to get to know who you're going to be, who you're going to be standing by when you're in court, right? Who's going to have a lot of control, frankly, as much control as many people, but for a jury or potentially a judge in how the case winds up. And what's funny about it, you just brought up that good point about, for the longest time, right, people will always ask, well, how do you sleep at night as a criminal defense attorney? And my answer has been the same. It was the same when I was, in my 20s. It's the same now when I'm in my 40s, is I sleep really well when I sleep. I don't sleep a lot, but I sleep well, because the reality is, right, is you're fighting for everyone.
Yeah.
But there's guys in there and women in there right now who may have done something, but certainly not what they got convicted of, certainly not what they're charged with, and certainly not deserving of the time they got. So all that other stuff shakes out over time, but you're fighting as hard for everyone to make sure those people get a second chance, or even that belief that even if they have to eat some time, that they knew that they went down fighting and they knew that they had someone that stood by them to give them the hope that there's a different and a better way out there.
And to have a lawyer that represents you rigorously there in support, that have effective communication, supportive staff, that individualized support, and at the same time in this traumatic situation makes you feel safe, right? Makes you feel comfortable with that situation, and having that direct conversation, that real language conversation where, okay, this is what we're going for, but then also these could be the consequences. So I consult with public defender's office, private practice, lawyers, and one of the things that I've seen through the paperwork and preliminary transcripts and all the paperwork that goes through it is the over talking, right? The individuals like over expressing themselves and maybe expressing themselves to try to get out of a situation. And that's their intent. But just the facts that expression in the back end, DAs, they're building that for the theory. And so I've heard you on your videos express that. And so can you speak on that?
Sure. Yeah, a DA, a skilled detective, they will absolutely feast on that. And a jury will convict on that. And that's why it's so important that the saying less is more cannot be more true. I give an example, and it's an extreme example sometimes, and some clients get it, others don't. So I try and give another example. But the golden example is of how talking can get you into trouble would be, okay, I live in the city of San Diego, right? I was in Mission Hills this morning at 8 o'clock. From Mission Hills, I came to where we are now. When I'm done with this podcast, if I get pulled over and the cops want to talk to me about a murder that happened in Carlsbad at 8 o'clock this morning, the inclination would be, well, no, I was at my house. I dropped my daughter off at school. I came here for this podcast. Here's my path. How do I know they're telling me the truth? What if the murder happened across the street from where we are now when I was sitting in my car for 10 minutes before I came up? What if it happened on the road? What have I done? I've done the cop's job for them, right? It's not an anti-police thing. It's not an anti-law enforcement thing. It's a pro-rights thing to make sure you don't dig yourself into a hole. Now, I get where a lot of people are coming from, though, right? Because they don't believe that anyone will listen to them, including their own lawyer down the line. And that's probably part of the problem, too. If I don't talk now, no one's ever going to listen to me. But there has to be that trust with the legal profession that whoever, whether it's court-appointed or privately retained, that there's going to come a time and a place to give your side of the story, but it's got to be to your lawyer, not to the cops, not to the DA, not, haphazardly on social media or on a cell phone, because 99 out of 99 and a half times, that's going to lead to a conviction.
So what's a form of expression for an individual that's in that position? And like, I've had these conversations with the community and just be like, look, I would love to talk to you, but let me connect with my lawyer first, right?
Sure.
That's something.
Yeah, I mean, unequivocally, right? I do not want to speak to you. I will not speak with you at this time. After I consult with my lawyer, I may be interested in that. He or she will reach out to you. Can I get your name and phone number? That's it. I have nothing else to say. If you leave an opening where it's like, well, maybe I should talk to you, I don't think I'm going to talk to you, and you're not completely clear that you're done with that conversation, it could open it up to continued conversation, and sometimes what happens, which is permissible, and sometimes you have people like they stop talking, hey, I'm done. And I'm sitting there watching a recorded interview, and it's like 4 minutes in, they're saying they're done, and I'm like high-fiving myself in the office, like, hey, yes, great. But I'm like, wait a minute, why is this a 2.5-hour interview? Because 20 minutes later, our client or the suspect will make hey, all right, I'll talk now. No, you gotta, I know it's easier said than done. I got pulled over for a traffic ticket. I want to talk myself out of it. Right?
Natural.
You have to stick with the plan, stick with the process. But the problem is that comes with trust that process will actually work, that your voice will be heard by someone. And that's where the criminal defense attorney comes in on the back end to validate the trust that they're given, right? And to show the community and to show their clients and people out there that there are people that listen, but you also got to play ball by our rules to a degree, because doing it the way the cops want you to do it, doing it the way the district attorney wants you to do it, doing the way you may want to do it yourself is going to put you in a worse place, and you're giving up control of your future.
Wow. So what's the definition of a lawyer that's there for you, that's going to represent you vigorously in a court of law?
Sure. It starts with telling you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. Right? And that's the same whether it's court appointed, public defender's office, or whether it's a privately retained attorney, right? It's not selling you a game without the track record, without the skill set, and arguably most importantly, without the work ethic to back it up, right? So that's the first thing, is to be able to deliver on your promises and to show your clients not only what you say you're going to do, but what you have done, and be consistent with your word. If you're going to go see someone, hey, I'm going to see you by the end of Thanksgiving weekend. If it's Sunday, I don't care if it's 8:30 at night. You're going to the jail to meet with your client. And if you're not, you're calling his girlfriend or his wife or his sister or his mom and say, hey, I can't go. I'm so sorry. This is why. Not, what's the big deal? I'll be there next week.
That means so much, David. And that's the nature of a good lawyer. And I've been there where I've had a great lawyer. Stephen G. Plank was a great lawyer.
He wasn't.
He came in, supported me vigorously. I was in a situation where I was facing a lot of time, and he was like, you know what? I'm here. I got you. I got your back. I'm going to visit you in 2 weeks. He came in 2 weeks, and guess what? He fought for me vigorously, supported me, and coming out the courtroom, talking to the judge, the DA, put a plan together. I was able to get an 8-month prison sentence out of that. And so, but there was effective communication in that process. And so I felt comfortable with that process, right? And so that's a great example on what a true definition of a lawyer is. Any other strategies for educating the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a criminal defense attorney's perspective, we don't see enough of it here in San Diego. We get a lot of credit at my firm with me and our team with the work we do, right? Whether it's delivering messages through social media, whether it's going on podcasts, whether it's volunteering our time or money, whatever the case may be, to the community, right? In interest involving criminal justice, and some interest because they're just great things to do and people need help. We don't see enough of that in volume, right? And I say my message, similar to how do you sleep at night? My message is, oh, you guys are so great. You guys do all this work. It's like, hey, listen, quite frankly, this is a testament of everyone else seems to step up their game more than it is anything we're doing that's so great, right? Because this is what we believe should be the embodiment of a criminal defense attorney being more than just a criminal defense attorney. It's not just work your cases and go home. At least it shouldn't be. It's understanding the voice that we have, and especially through platforms like social media, through podcasts, through connecting with organizations that are doing great things. It's to get the message out there where if we represent as a firm, let's say 200 people in my firm in a year, our goal is to touch 500 people, at least 300 which not even our clients. That's just right. By the work we're doing in the community, right? It's not just only our clients. And that's a change in mindset, that there are some brilliant attorneys, quite frankly, far better than I am now, far better than anyone probably that I know will ever be. But they are so reluctant to think outside the box as something more than just, well, word of mouth, I get calls and I help people. Because their impact to the community could be tenfold if they would just get used to being a little uncomfortable and do some things that they might not normally do.
Right.
Because it could help people, like I said, exponentially more than those they're helping now.
And that's what it's all about in the end. Building healthy community, building partnership, bringing in resources to the community, putting prison plans together after the fact, connecting with the families. And that's what we do here at Youth Empowerment. And look, we're credible messengers, individuals with lived experience. We've had contracts with the DAs, the Board of State Community Corrections, the U.S. attorneys, probation, counties, school systems, right? I didn't think that would be possible, but it is. And so that's our core. Like, we're here to build health communities, work with our youth, individuals, and families, and bring that educational component. We talked about a while back about how do we educate the community, and creating these platforms on where we start at a younger age, where they know their freedom, they're protecting their rights, and just the educational component. And whatever it is that they want to do in life, they want to become a DA, that's fine. If you want to become a judge, a lawyer, whatever that is that infuse that passion for them to be successful within the communities, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's about understanding that you should not be constrained by generations previously, by where you grew up, where you're growing up now, and what other people's expectations or what their ceilings are for you. And that applies across the board. When we started this morning, we were talking about, superpowers, right? And maximizing full potential. And that's the same thing. Again, like I said, that's the same thing for the teenager who doesn't know where their life is going to go in a couple of years, good, bad, or otherwise, right? But they know they have something to add. They have some skill set. They have some compassion. They're a good person. And that goes all the way up to the CEO of the largest company in San Diego, or the largest companies in San Diego, is understanding that, there's that saying, right? If you believe it, it's true. And if you don't, it's probably true too, right? Or something like that. It's so much of it is mindset and being able to shatter those boxes that other people, and quite frankly, sometimes yourself, will put yourself in, but to shatter through that, and the impact is going to be more than anyone could ever imagined. And you've lived it with this organization here, and the credible messaging, and what that is, in a different form, is credibility. It's value. It's, the ability to connect with someone on ways that maybe I certainly can't. My firm certainly can't. We can connect with people in many ways, but not in the shared experience way, right? My 20 hours in the Orleans Parish Jail is not going to connect with someone the way that your 23 years in the shoe would, right? And that's great. And to understand what we are, what value we bring, and to not let pride mutually get in the way of helping people, because we can work together as a private criminal defense bar or the defense community, lawyers, DAs, whoever, and organizations like yours here.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, like partnerships, collaboration, non-competition, working with each other to help build this beautiful, boiling, healing with the community, and working with these individuals that have had all these causative factors that contributed to their behaviors, the impacts of trauma, and the why factor, right? And so we specialize in this population and want to do everything in our power for the healing journey and build leaders, man. That's what we do. Build leaders and just move out the way. Build leaders, move out the way. Yep. Build leaders and move out the way. So thank you, man. Thank you for coming today to Victorious Voices.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And so we're going to do a checkout. The checkout's going to consist of your name, how you're feeling, and a change in the judicial system. What would that be?
Me first?
You first.
All right. So again, David Shapiro. I am feeling reinvigorated, even more so than when I came in here today, to go out and have a great productive day, have a great productive week, and a strong end to the month, to the year, so on and so forth. A change that I want to see in the judicial system will be similar to the superpower, would be for everyone, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, court staff, bailiffs, whoever, to at least pretend, if not believe, the potential that everyone has and the good that's inside. One of the biggest frustrating factors that I see is when I hear a fellow defense attorney refer to an inmate in custody as a body. Oh, the bodies aren't here yet, right? Or say, say the victim when you're saying your client's factually innocent. Well, there is no victim if your client's factually innocent, and if there is, Your person's not responsible. So to keep that in mind and understand who we're representing and be consistent with that, not just play into the room and start using words like body, victim, defendant, stuff that just cuts against the core principles of what it's like, in my opinion, and what you need to be an effective defense attorney.
Wow. You stole my thing, man. So my name's Arturo. I feel motivated. And so the change that I would love to see in the judicial system is a trauma-informed system. Judges, court-appointed, public defenders, lawyers, DA, probation officers, U.S. attorney, the staff that are connecting with in institutions, George Bailey, East Mesa detention facilities throughout the United States, all these institutions to be trauma-informed. A trauma-informed system through the trauma-informed code of conduct. The trauma-informed code of conduct is effective communication, supportive staff, individualized support, and everybody wants to feel safe. So similar, right?
Absolutely.
But a trauma-informed system puts the system together to help heal communities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Victorious Voices.